Hello friends, this is your friend back with a new fanfic. Naruto's growing influence draws Konoha's strongest women to his side. If you like this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Now, let's start. Hokage-sama, Minato-sama, Kushina-sama, and Naruto-sama are on their way. A leaf Chunin blurted out while bursting through the door. The three senjus gone stiff by that announcement. The room went so cold that very moment and the leaf Chunin suddenly felt so insignificant, but couldn't help but feel glee that the Yondaime is alive. How'd he live? He didn't know, but who cares? The Yondaime's a freaking hero. When are they going to arrive? Tsunade asked with no emotion in her voice. In a few hours. The Chunin blurted, unaware of the growing danger. Tsunade had her eyes shadowed by her downcast look. Chunin-san, get out of my office. Her order was slow and dangerous, but the Chunin was a bit too cheerful about what he said and didn't bother to notice Tsunade's dangerous tone. He obeyed nearly the moment the last word was sent, but before he left he sent a death glare at Naruto's back. The look could have said, "Your time is running short, Kyuubi brat." After the Chunin left, the room turned so very cold. Tsunade and Shizune turned to their new Sochi Otudo in worry, seeing a shocked and surprised face. Sochi-kun, Tsunade asked worriedly while having some thoughts. How is Minato and Kushina alive? Sarutobi-sensei's report on that day was detailed down to the last swipe of the Kyuubi's tail. Kushina and Minato died that day. Sarutobi-sensei proved it by examining the bodies afterwards. They clearly died and their medical records matches their bodies. Their DNA, their blood type, everything. Even Jiraiya came by and checked that there weren't any seals or tricks of some kind. Heck, how did Minato survive the Hake no Shikifuin? Too many questions. Tsunade paled beyond even that to Orochimaru's skin. Oh Kami, no. Since they're here, I might lose Naruto-kun. No, not after he became my son. Not so soon. Tsunade kept a strong front to not worry her new son. Tsunade didn't want to lose her new son so soon, let alone ever. It also didn't help that she lied to him about keeping the identity of his parents from him when they're on their way. She had so many reasons not to, which mostly involves his father's enemies. His parents were, or rather are powerful people and thus, they have numerous and powerful opponents. Apparently a lot of people can't help but get revenge on the Yondaime and his family, even though it was just the Yondaime that did the deeds. It just wasn't fair for his kid. Aw crap. This is bad. I lied to my Sochi-kun, and now he's going to be taken from me. I don't want to lose him. Tsunade inwardly panicked and tensed. Yesterday, she lied to Naruto about the identity of his parents. If he finds out she lied to him about his parents, and he ends up meeting them. Worst case scenario, Naruto will leave and never wish to see Tsunade again. She cannot allow that. Ototo, Shizune said worriedly. How is Minato-sa? No. Minato-tem still alive. He abandoned Naruto-kun to the horrors of this village. And where was Kushina-sam? No. Kushina-tem. Arg. Weren't both of them dead? If they were alive this whole time, then where did they go? Shizune thought in sheer horror of what Naruto had to go through. She wanted to break down and cry over the fact Minato and Kushina pretty much abandoned their child to the hatred of the village. And Naruto-kun has a sibling. Since when? Shizune questioned. She had countless questions flowing through her mind right about now. It was no surprise when the Kyuubi killed them and everyone claimed they died. She's shocked that they're still alive. And she wondered how the heck Naruto's sibling came into play. While Shizune and Tsunade held their strong fronts despite what occurred, Naruto was in complete shock and surprise. Minato-tem. How? How is he alive? The Kyuubi killed him, right? And Kushina died that day too, right? This is confusing. I want to beat up Minato-tem for this. But, Kushina is alive. She's family in some way and she's alive. I can't help but feel okay about that. Naruto was completely dumbfounded by this revelation. He really had no clue as to how to react. Was he supposed to react happy? Sad? Or what? He wanted to beat up Minato for giving the Kyuubi burden to him, but he couldn't help but feel happy and hopeful to meet a family member after so long. But quickly, his mask shot back up. Oh Kami-sama, do you know what this means, Ka-chan? Yondaime-sama's alive. My hero's alive, Ka-chan. Who knows? Maybe I can get his autograph. Naruto shouted with a huge grin. If only if that grin was real. Tsunade and Shizune smiled lightly, they couldn't help but feel happy for their new Sochi, Otudo. Curse their familial happiness for their Sochi, Otudo for their inability to read real emotions when it is needed. At least Naruto-kun's happy. Shizune and Tsunade thought happily, but frowned. But we lied to him. If he finds out the truth, he'll leave us. Hey, Ka-chan, can I go to the Senju compound? Naruto asked excitedly. A smile graced Tsunade's face as she realized Naruto is now a Senju. Sure, Sochi-kun, here's the keys to the Senju compound. Tsunade tossed Naruto a single key, which he easily caught. Thanks, Ka-chan. Naruto thanked. He was about to take off, but Tsunade stopped him. Oh, and Naruto. Me and Shizune are going to talk with the Yondaime in a few hours, I want you to be back here before they arrive, okay? Tsunade told, getting Naruto to nod furiously. And Ka-chan. Naruto smiled warmly. Yes, Tsunade said. Can you help a friend of mine named Rock Lee? He's in the hospital right about now and I'm willing to bet he would love to get off that hospital bed. You know plenty of ninjas don't like the hospital. Naruto reminded. Smiling and without hesitation, Tsunade nodded and formed a kage bunshin. Go check up on Lee's diagnostics and see what you can do. Tsunade ordered. The Tsunade clone nodded before vanishing via Shunshin no Jutsu. Ha 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 ha, using kage bunshins to do your work for you Ka-chan. Wow, you're taking my kage bunshin tip seriously. Naruto said. You're the one who taught me that trick Sochi-kun. Tsunade remarked warmly. Maybe I should use that trick too. Shizune thought devilishly then turned serious. Thanks Ka-chan. Naruto thanked and left quickly. The moment he left, the room turned cold and Tsunade and Shizune couldn't help but feel angry over the fact Minato and Kushina pretty much abandoned their son. Tsunade-sama. How is Minato and Kushina alive? Didn't they die 13 years ago? Shizune questioned. She looked at Tsunade who kept staring at the door where Naruto left through with a sad expression. Shizune. I lied to Naruto-kun. Tsunade admitted in horror of what she did. Shizune snapped her attention to this and gasped in absolute horror. Oh, Kami-sama, you don't mean that lie about his parents from yesterday, right? Shizune asked worriedly and fear. To her growing fear and horror, Tsunade nodded fearfully. Kami-sama save our family. Shizune whispered. She didn't want Naruto to hate them after lying to him. Not after they just became a family. The horror of what happened yesterday shocked Shizune and caused her to break into tears. Tsunade-sama. What are we going to do? I don't want to lose my Otudo. Shizune cried and clutched onto Tsunade. The blonde woman didn't know what to do except to comfort Shizune. I don't know Shizune, my Masumi, but I'm going to fight for my Sochi. That I promise you. Tsunade promised with fire in her eyes. A family was always a desire for the slug Sanin, and now that she has one, and she isn't going to let Naruto go. Shizune. Here's what we're going to do. Naruto sprinted off to his apartment. He wasn't going to the Senju compound, not yet at least. Damn, I almost lost my cool back there. If Tsunade and Shizune found me angry by the Yondaime's name then they'll suspect something. I don't want to lose them because of my mask. Naruto panicked and leapt onto a rooftop to pick up the pace. Tsunade's sudden offer to adopt him shocked him beyond belief. No one has ever wanted to adopt him before and this was a huge first for him. What he carried always turned away what could have been a parent. They seemed so Gainun unlike the villagers and it's true I save her from Kabuto Tem and every cage's nightmare. I don't know why Tsunade of all people wants me to become her son, but it seems so unreal. Naruto thought with some hope. The sudden offer of becoming the Hokage's son offered him a great deal of options and protection. But that wasn't the only reason why he accepted. But Tsunade and Shizune don't know the real me. The Baka version of me would have accepted her offer instantly without a second thought. Naruto thought sadly. He wasn't stupid when it came to family. He watched others with their happy families in envy and jealously and he knew that family trusts, or at least should, each other unconditionally. But his acceptance of their offer was a choice of his mask. But if they find out the real him, will they still want him? He doubted it. But his adoptive family is different. But they seem to really want me this time around, but they don't know the real me. Naruto noted and set his eyes towards his apartment. There was a huge part of him that wants this family to be real and just play the baka like he acted forever to bask in Tsunade's love. Love. I don't even know what that feels like. Naruto thought sadly and hoped this adoptive family is real. But he had other matters to attend to. I gotta get home and quick. I can't let anyone know I have all the techniques in the village. If I do, then I'm pretty much dead. Naruto realized and put a stern look on his face. During Orochimaru's invasion, he copied nearly every clan's and the Forbidden Scrolls techniques. If anyone finds out about that, Naruto doesn't even want to know what'll happen if that scenario comes true. He ran through Konoha's rooftops in a hurry. After realizing the man who ruined his life is still alive, Naruto nearly lost control of himself in the Hokage's office. He was absolutely stunned to find out the Yondaime had a family, but completely ruin his life. Why? Why him? Did Minato steal him from his parents' crib when he was born? Did Minato kill his parents just to seal the Kyuubi inside him? Naruto didn't know what to believe. His mind was completely filled with questions that he wants answers for. Who are his parents? Did they love him? Did they give him up to the Yondaime so he could be the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi? Is what the Sandaime said was true? Did his parents die by the Kyuubi and the Yondaime found him and happened to use him for his cursed act? How did the Yondaime survive? Everyone said he died during the Kyuubi attack and so did his wife. But they had a kid and they are coming here. How dare he? How dare he have a family when he royally screwed his over? Didn't he know what was going on during his life? Did he even care about sacrificing him when Naruto had no say in it? But Naruto felt his anger leaving him when he found another train of thought. Naruto. Naruto thought out the name in his head. Why does that name only have one letter off from mine? Naruto was confused by that name. It was only one letter off his and he had a crazy assumption. Is Naruto my twin? Naruto thought. It was an insane thought and he had nothing to go on other than the name. He never even knew what Kushina or this Naruto looked like. It wasn't uncommon to have twins with similar names, like the Hyuga clan leader's Hiyashi, whose twin was named Hizashi. Tears began to form in Naruto's eyes. He hadn't shed a real tear ever since he realized Hayate had a lover, Yugao. He regretted not saving Hayate that day and he cried over the fact he caused someone else deep pain. Did Minato not feel what he felt when Naruto practically sacrificed Hayate to preserve his mask? Then he should feel guilty over the fact Minato sacrificed Naruto. He finally reached his apartment and walked into his bedroom with his shoulders slumping in defeat. He formed a few cage buncheons and moved the bed to the side. Underneath the bed is a thin piece of ninja wire that leads the corner of the room, tied around a very small hole in the floorboard. He gave a tug on the ninja wire and the wooden floorboard was pulled with it. Naruto then pulled out more of the floorboards out by using the first floorboard's empty space as leverage. After removing a few of them, Naruto pulled out a large scroll that matches the size of the Forbidden Scroll. I gotta bury this thing. But where? Naruto knew and gulped to himself. Unexpectedly, he heard a very familiar growling noise from within his consciousness. Kyuubi. Naruto mentally growled. Naruto. The Kyuubi growled in the same tone. I heard some very intriguing news. Naruto felt his throat go dry and felt himself get pulled into his consciousness. Naruto opened his eyes to see a large cage with a paper seal. Within this cage, a large red eye with a vertical slit as a pupil opened. Naruto felt no fear coming here, but the Kyuubi never forcefully pull him here unless it's for a good reason. What do you want, Kyuubi? Naruto asked with no fear in his voice. The Kyuubi exhaled deeply, pushing air into Naruto's face. That annoyed Naruto a bit. I heard Minato is alive after all this time. And I heard his wife and child is alive and well. The Kyuubi said and smirked. So, get on with it, Naruto said angrily and crossed his arms. Naruto doesn't like the Kyuubi very well. This was the being that practically ruined his life and killed his parents, if what the words Hiruzen said was true. The Kyuubi gave a very bitter chuckle and continued to smirk as if the devil was himself. I'd watch that tone of your if I was you, Naruto. But, putting aside the pleasantries, Minato. I know him and his family really well. The Kyuubi insinuated and tilted his head. Naruto stood stock still as he walked on water. Naruto didn't know what to do about that piece of info. The Kyuubi hates Naruto for being sealed in his gut. He can definitely understand that, but he never knew the Kyuubi knew the Yondaime and his family on what it sounds to be a personal level. How? Naruto asked, getting the Kyuubi to smirk wildly and bore his one big red eye on Naruto. Minato. He killed your parents. The Kyuubi informed, which sent a huge tremor in Naruto's body. No. That can't be true. You're lying. Naruto shouted and instantly tears fell from his eyes. It's not true. It can't be true. The Yondaime wouldn't kill his parents just to get to him. Would he? He did seal the Kyuubi into him and abandoned him without help. Unknown to him, the Kyuubi only remained smirking while he spun his web of lies. It is true. And I know everything that happened during the day I attacked this pitiful village. The Kyuubi told. Naruto lost control of his chakra and sunk into the water while his tears fell. The news about his parents killed him from within. KKS-san. T2-san. Did you guys love me? Naruto wondered while he fell to his knees. The ankle-deep water clung to his cloths and skin, and confusion began to cloud his judgment. Knowledge of his parents and their love for him was always a secret desire, and knowing that they are dead crushed him. Now he felt he'll never know if they loved him. Perfect. He's breaking. The Kyuubi gave a sinister smirk to himself. Just a little more and his judgment will be easily clouded. It's true. The Sandaime said they died in the Kyuubi attack. It's true, isn't it? Naruto realized to himself. The old man said his parents died in the Kyuubi attack, but he didn't know them personally. Maybe the Sandaime was right. Maybe the Sandaime did know his parents died that day and didn't know them personally. Yeah, that makes a bit of sense. The Kyuubi heard his container's thoughts. Yes, the Sandaime didn't lie that day when he told you your parents died in my so-called attack and he didn't know them. The Sandaime didn't know your parents, they were some commoners the Yondaime killed off to get to you. I saw the Yondaime strike down your mother and your father. I actually tried to save them. The Kyuubi told solemnly, which stopped all of Naruto's tears. WHWH what? Naruto demanded, obviously shocked by this discovery. He felt a little guilty about not warning the Sandaime about Orochimaru's invasion, but the news about the Yondaime killing his family shocked him to his core. And not only that, but the Kyuubi actually tried to save his parents. How unbelievable is that? Why would the Kyuubi bother to save a pair of commoners? Disbelief was seriously scarred on Naruto's face. No, you're lying. You attacked Konoha for the sake of killing its people. Naruto accused desperately for any hope the Kyuubi is wrong. The Kyuubi merely snorted in response. Please, if I told you the truth, you'd still won't believe, but I'll tell the tale anyways. The Kyuubi said and cleared his throat. The noise boomed within his consciousness as Naruto kneeled down on both knees in front of the Kyuubi's cage. He always knelt in front of the Sandaime whenever he told stories about random things whenever he came by his office. The day I attacked Konoha, as you said, I was controlled by a dojutsu called the Sharingan. The Kyuubi stared, but was instantly interrupted. The Sharingan, the same dojutsu Sasuke Tem has. Naruto asked weakly to confirm what was being told. The Kyuubi nodded and growled dangerously for being interrupted. Those cursed eyes took control of me. Despite my great powers of causing mountains to crumble, tsunamis to spring from the ocean, causing fires of destruction, I am powerless when those eyes bore into my own. These Sharingan eyes utilize genjutsu to take control of my chakra. Do you understand how genjutsu works? The Kyuubi asked, but ignored the nod that came from Naruto. Of course you do. You're a genius. Genjutsu works by taking control of chakra and those eyes took control of my chakra, making me a vulnerable slave to the Uchiha clan. I am a being of pure chakra, and when that man used a genjutsu on me, I lost all sense of control. This man who took control of me is called Madara Uchiha. The Kyuubi told, ignoring the disbelieving face of Naruto. He's dead, isn't he? Naruto exclaimed. By now, Madara should be over 100 years. The claim sounds rather unbelievable. No, Madara has the power of immortality. I do not know how he holds such powers, but I assume it is because of the Sharingan. But moving on, Madara took control of me, but I was fully capable of knowing what he was doing with me. I saw the Yondaime kill your parents. I roared and screamed to free myself from Madara's control, but I could not. Madara's control over me was too much and I stood helpless as I wrecked your village. The Yondaime killed your parents and took you from your crib. I don't know your parents on a personal level, but I do know Kushina and Minato on that level. In fact, Minato and Kushina killed your parents. The Kyuubi told, getting Naruto to feel anger, grief, and rage. His mind was reeling from what was being told. He was just told of his parents' death and now he's being told that an Uzumaki and her husband killed his parents. Nothing made sense, truth couldn't be grasped, lies can't be discerned. Nothing made sense. Those bastards. They killed my parents. Why? Naruto demanded and screamed as tears fell from his eyes. So far, the story of what is being told to him made complete sense. He saw no allusions from the Kyuubi's words, mostly because he didn't understand most of what happened back then and so far what he said makes sense. Not to mention the fact that Naruto's confusion is higher beyond that of a betrayed comrade. Why would Kushina kill my parents? She's an Uzumaki too, right? Oh, or is Naruto Uzumaki my real name? Naruto demanded and slammed his fists into the water, splashing his cloths and creating ripples in the water. Muhaha. Perfection. He's practically broken. Just one more push. The Kyuubi manipulatively thought. Naruto Uzumaki isn't your given name. The Kyuubi told, once again sending a tremor in Naruto's soul. Utter silence grew so large between the human and Biju. The pause between them took so long that the Kyuubi could have gotten bored. Until the Kyuubi felt an very amusing amount of killer intent from Naruto. Kushina Uzumaki is the only problem with this boy. He believes Kushina is family. If he finds out she is not, then he'll have no reason to stay after all. The Kyuubi thought deceptively. If he can get rid of all of Naruto's holds on Konoha, then he'll be able to manipulate him into doing what he desires, and what he desires is for another story. What? That means, arg. Naruto shouted and went through a fit of rage. The Kyuubi was greatly amused by his host's reaction. After about an hour of a fit of rage later, Naruto collapsed into a heap of flesh. The Kyuubi heard his sobbing quite clearly. That means Tsunade lied to me. That means the Sandaime lied to me. That means my life was a huge lie. Naruto sobbed. It is sad. I know Naruto, I know that you do not trust me, but I have much more to tell. The Kyuubi told and shed a fake tear. Naruto saw the enormous tear in a bit of awe. You're crying. Naruto told in slight fascination and shock. I am not a monster that everyone makes me out to be. I am a being that can hold emotion. I can feel love, betrayal, loyalty, and all the range of human emotions. You are not alone, Naruto, for I have been lied to throughout the most of my life, but first, I shall finish my story. The Kyuubi said and his fake tear dropped. The teardrop splashed in his cage loudly and the sounds echoed in Naruto's consciousness. After the Yondaime killed your parents, he whisked you away and brought his dying wife with him to stop me. He brought you in an altar for your size and his dying wife pinned me to the ground with cursed golden chains. The chains are far too strong and is one of the only methods in this world in stopping me. While I was restrained by Kushina Uzumaki, her husband performed a seal called the Hake no Fuin Shiki. This seal uses a being that even I fear. This being is called the Shinigami. The Kyuubi said, getting a gasp from Naruto. With this great and powerful being, the Shinigami and the Yondaime Hokage sealed me in here, in you. The Kyuubi finished. Naruto, who was a wreck, sat in the water, crying over the news of this talk. The Kyuubi said his parents are dead by the hands that curse his life, and now he doesn't even know what his real name is. Heck, he was lied to far too many times in his life. His line between truth and lies are so blurred, that not even Kami could see which is right from wrong. He always went along with his gut, and his gut is telling him to believe this fox. What is Kushina Uzumaki to you? Naruto asked with a voice that was worn down in age that should not be after finally breaking the long silence that stood between them. She was a real evil and twisted being. She hides behind a mask of happiness, but in truth, she is a demonic being of epic proportions. She once held me much like you do now. The Kyuubi told. Wait, you mean she held you before? Naruto said and pointed. The Kyuubi nodded. She was my second container, the first being her grandmother. When I was in her seal, she would torture me and shed my blood for amusement. Her golden chains pinned me within her seal as I laid helpless in her cage. She would stab stakes into my body, hear my cries, tighten her chains where my fur would shrivel away. Her cruelty is beyond the level of even Morino Ibiki. The Kyuubi informed, getting a shudder from Naruto. Ibiki was a great interrogator in Naruto's opinion. The first part of the Chunin exams proved that. Those questions were ridiculous and the 10th question made him sweat a waterfall. If Kushina could do worse, then. He didn't want to continue the thought. She knew what it felt to be a Jinchuriki and she often lashed out by her bullies. Often makes them her slaves by intimidation. She made me her slave at one point and I was furious. She understood what it meant to be a Jinchuriki and she ordered the Sandaime to reveal your secret. This would make the entire village hate you and fear you. She was lucky though, she escaped that fate by having her status a secret from everyone else except a few people. She is that cruel, the Kyuubi told. By now, Naruto put his head down and quietly wept by this devastating news. Perfect. He's so broken now. Just another push and he'll become my unknowing slave. The Kyuubi thought in hidden glee. Showing his glee would reveal his plan and that is something he doesn't need. I know you do not trust me, but I will remind you that it was I who healed you to perfect health whenever you get beaten, spitted on, starved, and all the rest of the village's bullshit. I helped you in your match against that Hyuga boy because I saw how pitiful an excuse he had in life. I know your life was much worse than Neji Hyuga's and I helped you when that perverted toad sage pushed you off a cliff. Jiraiya wanted to kill you that day. The Kyuubi stopped when he saw a look on Naruto's eyes. Save it. I see now that you are my only real friend, if I knew what a friend was. And I do not care about any near-death experiences by anybody anymore. I already have enough enemies as of now. Naruto replied. A hard look of sheer hatred graced his eyes. What do you take on this, Naruto? It sounds like a girl's name. Naruto asked with a hard look. The Kyuubi was greatly amused by the look inside out. Naruko is the Yondaime's daughter. Minato wouldn't risk his own daughter when he has a village that can offer him a sacrifice. I saw her through Kushina's seal and I tried to remove her from this existence as a form of payment for sealing me and you. And also for a sort of revenge for you, but ultimately I failed in killing her. The Kyuubi told. The Kyuubi saw no reaction in Naruto's eyes nor body. Baka Fox, don't bring innocence down with you. I may applaud you for your attempt at killing the Yondaime, but killing innocents will not be tolerated. Naruto reprimanded dangerously. The Kyuubi grew angry and growled. What's going on? He should have been broken by now. The Kyuubi realized to himself and glared at Naruto. He expected a flinch, or some sense of fear. Instead, he saw a determined look in Naruto's eyes. Baka human, once the Yondaime is gone his family will be next to kill you. It's the never-ending cycle of hate. The Kyuubi countered. I don't care. If you haven't noticed, I don't like to play by the rules. And that means all rules. Naruto shot back, glared, and growled. What is this feeling? How can he be so determined? The Kyuubi wondered to himself and stood up in the cage. Do you at least know my real name by any chance? Naruto asked while watching his prisoner carefully. I do not know. The screams of the villagers drowned out your father's voice. The Kyuubi answered, aware of the growing rage within Naruto. I am not even given my real name. What load of crap is this? Naruto screamed, kicked, enraged in his mind. I should have expected this. Everyone's against me. I should have known. Naruto scolded himself. Growling at his host, the Kyuubi smirked and grinned. So weak. So pathetic. You don't even have a name. How sad that you had to live the life of a parentless and beaten child. Oh well, if I had the chance to name you, it'd be Kurama. The Kyuubi told with a mocked voice. How dare he resist me? Where does he get this determination from? The Kyuubi wondered. It always puzzled the Kyuubi on how Naruto becomes strong on his own, and now the Kyuubi felt Naruto's chakra resisting its effect. While the Kyuubi was wondering how Naruto gets his determination. Enough trying to manipulate me. I'll get my answers soon enough. I'll demand answers when I'm strong enough. For now, I'll keep the name Naruto Senju. Tsunade seemed to truly want to become my mother, and perhaps she might even have a reason to keep my parents' identity away from me. But if this family is just another farce, then fine. I'll take that name and be called Kurama. Naruto told. In all actuality, the name, Kurama, sounded pretty cool to him. You're a fool boy. They'll just betray you in the end. The Kyuubi roared. A deep sickening feeling struck Naruto's stomach. He knew that was a bad feeling and couldn't help but feel his choice is wrong. Stop treating me like I'm an idiot. Naruto glared and walked away. After reclaiming the scroll from under his bed, Naruto summoned a Kage Bunshin. You know where to go. Naruto said solemnly and looked at the ground. The Bunshin's expression grew the same and walked off. The real Naruto walked off and made his way to the Senju compound. On his way, he heard the whispers of the villagers. Did you hear? The Yondaime's alive. Maybe he'll finish what he failed to do 13 years ago. A rugged man whispered to another. Naruto had a horrible gut feeling inside him that slowly grew into fear. Maybe the Yondaime absolutely seethed him and wanted to kill him to get to the Kyuubi. Who knows? He might as well avoid the Yondaime at all cost. He could tell bad things would happen if they ever crossed paths. This is bad. I know this is going to be bad. Naruto thought and rushed towards the Senju compound. Luckily, nobody questioned the giant scroll behind his back as he walked through Konoha. It would have been bad news if he was caught, not that he would have. One time, he managed to vandalize the Hokage's mountain in clear daylight before the public or the Anbu squads ever noticed him, just to see if anyone can see potential in him in his own way, but the results wasn't in his favor. If he could vandalize the Hokage's mountains, then Naruto should be able to make his way with a scroll on his back. Eventually, he made his way to the Senju compound without incident, or so he thinks. Gazing at the Senju gateway, the Senju gate is completely wooden and has the Senju symbol scattered across the gate and wall. Right after he placed the key inside the keyhole, the gates to the Senju compound swung open, and just before he walked inside, he heard a voice. N Naruto K-kun. A bowl haircut teen in a green spandex suit laid on a hospital bed, hoping for his turn for recovery. So far, every treatment that was given to him pretty much failed, not surprising since his sensei has no clue as to how to treat people right. But hey, Guy's sensei is a kind man who wants his student to jump on his feet again. But he's no Tsunade. Naruto-kun, you beaten Neji-kun, you've beaten someone that I could never beat. You truly have the flames of youth. Lee thought with a warm and youthful smile as he listened to the silence of the hospital room. All around him, machines are everywhere and annoyingly beeped to peeve him off. Although, this room is very youthful in keeping me safe. I wish I could go outside again, hopefully soon. Lee sadly thought. Lee-kun. A voice rang from the hall. The voice brought a friend and brought Lee's ever-faithful sensei, Maeda Guy. Guy-sensei. Lee replied happily. Do not fear. Tsunade-sama shall heal you into tip-top shape. Guy told, getting a hopefully look on his student's face. Yosh. The flames of youth haven't abandoned me yet. Lee cheered. Lee-kun. Guy shouted. Guy-sensei. Lee shouted. Lee-kun. Guy-sensei. A few rounds of screaming each other's names later. Lee-kun. There is no need for fear, for Tsunade-sama is the greatest medical ninja ever. Guy said confidently, and soon enough a clone of Tsunade came around the door. Thank you for the compliment, Guy. The Tsunade clone thanked and walked over to Lee, who had awe and hope in his eyes. Tsunade-sama. Guy stuttered in the amazing sight of Tsunade. His eyes couldn't help but look downwards from her face. Eyes up here, Junin. The Tsunade clone reprimanded. Guy started to sweat and bow repeatedly. Yosh. I apologize, Tsunade-sama. I did not intend to become like my rival, Kakashi, and follow his unyouthful perverted quirks. For my transgressions I shall run 1,000,000 laps around Konoha. If I fail, I shall. The Tsunade clone put a hand to stop Guy. That's enough, Guy. Just let me look over your student. The Tsunade clone told somewhat impatiently. Instantly, Guy stepped out of the way to let Tsunade to pick up a clipboard of Lee's diagnostics report. As she studied the report with great intent, another person stormed into the room. Ka-chan. Sasuke sat on a hospital bed, thinking about his blonde teammate. Sasuke saw the improvements Naruto made and wondered how he gotten stronger since Naruto was the dead last. Naruto shouldn't have gotten that strong so quickly that he could be an equal to him, the rookie of the year. It doesn't make sense. He'd gotten all the training from Kakashi, but somehow Naruto managed to keep up and beat a foe Sasuke can't beat. Gaara, how did I lose to him? And how did Naruto beat him when I can't? Sasuke thought in frustration, his fist clenched in frustration as he seethed by Naruto's vast improvements. The dead last even beaten that Neji Hyuga, who was the Rookie of the Year from last year. How could this year's dead last beat their Rookie of the Year? Sasuke questioned. It sounded unbelievable in his eyes. In Sasuke's eyes, the Rookie of the Year was greatly stronger than the dead last, but Naruto was the only exception. How did Naruto get so strong all of a sudden? Sasuke wondered. He heard the sounds of tears coming from one's eyes and turned his cold gaze to the door. What he saw had pink hair and a red dress with a white halo on the bottom and back. What's wrong with her? Sasuke wondered and narrowed his eyes on his pink-haired teammate. Sasuke-kun. She sobbed and clutched onto Sasuke. I can't find my mother. Please help me Sasuke-kun. Sakura pleaded and cried on Sasuke's shoulder. Sasuke-kun, a meeting took place yesterday ago and I can't find my mother. Sakura cried, and she cried harder when Sasuke gave a look of, well, no look at all. He didn't really care for Sakura. But perhaps. Lee-kun. A voice rang from the hall. Both Sakura and Sasuke grew annoyed by the voice. They both knew what that exuberant voice belongs to. Guy-sensei. Do not fear. Tsunade-sama shall heal you into tip-top shape. Yosh. The flames of youth haven't abandoned me yet. Lee-kun. Guy-sensei. Lee-kun. Guy-sensei. Another round of endless screaming of their names again. Lee-kun. There is no need for fear for Tsunade-sama is the greatest medical ninja ever. I thank you for the compliment Guy. Sasuke and Sakura knew of their Hokage's voice and actually started to pay attention. The Hokage's attention is quite important and if she's here then it's obviously important. Tsunade-sama. Eyes up here Junin. Yosh. I apologize Tsunade-sama. I did not intend to become like my rival, Kakashi, and follow his unyouthful perverted quirks. For my transgressions, I shall run 1,000,000 laps around Konoha. If I fail, I shall. That's enough Guy. Just let me look over your student. Ka-chan. Both Sakura and Sasuke recognized that voice. Naruto. Sasuke and Sakura whispered. And Naruto has a mother now. Both Sasuke and Sakura didn't believe the dead last would have gotten adopted. Sasuke noticed Sakura has a furious look in her eyes. That Baka gets a mother. And I lose mine. Sakura gritted her teeth. Growling, Sakura gritted her teeth and walked off. Sasuke got up and followed her. Naruto's no longer an orphan. It's not fair. How come he gets stronger, yet he also gets adopted? Laying on a third hospital bed, a purple-haired woman in a hospital gown is unconscious. A blonde-haired boy with blue eyes watched over her carefully and watched the door with extreme amount of protection. A chair was what the clone was sitting on to the left side of the woman's bed as the Naruto clone watched the door. This was where the Naruto clone went to after being created after Naruto talked with the Kyuubi. So far, not one person came to visit the purple-haired woman. The clone put a finger on the woman's neck, a pulse flared under the clone's touch. Every day since the invasion, Naruto regretted saving this woman's lover's life. Naruto felt it was his responsibility because he could have saved Yugao of her suicide attempt. Ironically, Naruto was the one who carried her to the hospital, under a henge of course. No one would treat a patient that was touched by the Kyuubi brat. Ever since he found out Yugao was Hayate's lover, Naruto felt he owed Yugao an explanation and so much more. Even though Yugao is an Anbu-level ninja, Naruto wanted to protect her despite being a Chunin to Junin-level ninja. Naruto certainly has the requirements to become Junin, other than two aspects. He has two elemental affinities, a good repertoire of ninjutsu, decent taijutsu, but sadly no genjutsu. Genjutsu and having 2 years as a Chunin was probably the only thing that'll prevent Naruto from ever becoming Junin. Damn the rules. I can still be a Kage-level ninja even without genjutsu. I know I can. The Naruto clone thought confidently and watched Yugao carefully. Every day, Naruto always sent a single clone to guard Yugao whenever possible. Ever since his lack of action to save Hayate, Naruto knew he owed Yugao an explanation, and he felt he owed Yugao for the pain he caused. It wasn't hard getting a clone inside the hospital, and apparently there is a blind spot around the hospital. But Naruto wasn't going to say that to anyone. The tree lines makes entry super easy, and he wouldn't be able to guard Yugao if he ever told anyone. The hospital was very boring to the clone, but the clone stayed place because of the debt the clone's boss felt towards this woman. Every time, the clone would always skip signing the visitor papers because that would arouse suspicion on him if he only came to visit Yugao. During one of his clone's guarding times, the clone remembers a clone's experiences with Gaara who tried to kill Lee in his sleep. Naruto wanted to prevent Yugao's assassination. Al thought that was probably unnecessary because of Yugao's Anbu status. Both the clone and the real deal knew the Anbu are mysterious people and only the Hokage knows of them personally. The Anbu is the Hokage's personal ninja force after all. But regardless of what happened, Naruto wanted to protect Yugao ever since Gaara's assassination attempt on Lee's life. There was a possibility that Yugao could have assassins after her, and Naruto didn't want to take that chance of an assassin coming in to kill her, not before he apologizes of what he didn't do. Hayate-kun. Yugao whimpered out despite being unconscious. The clone's heart cracked so much that it could have dispelled by the pain of regretting of not saving Hayate. Luckily, it didn't. I'm so sorry. The Naruto clone whispered to no one in particular. The clone watched Yugao start to tremble and saw some tears falling from her face. She must have really loved Hayate to cry about him after this long. The Naruto clone thought, I am so sorry. Unexpectedly, he heard a pair of very loud voices in a room nearby. Lee-kun. A voice rang from the hall. Gai-sensei. Another voice shouted back in a bit of awe and shock. Do not fear. Tsunade-sama shall heal you into tip-top shape. Yosh. The flames of youth haven't abandoned me yet. Lee-kun. Gai-sensei. Lee-kun. Gai-sensei. Yet another round of screaming each other's names yet again. Lee-kun. There is no need for fear, for Tsunade-sama is the greatest medical ninja ever. I thank you for the compliment, Gai. Tsunade-sama. Eyes up here, Junin. Yosh. I apologize, Tsunade-sama. I did not intend to become like my rival, Kakashi, and follow his unyouthful perverted quirks. For my transgressions, I shall run 1,000,000 laps around Konoha. If I fail, I shall. The clone lightly chuckled by their behavior. Typical Gai. The clone noted. In all honesty, Naruto liked Gai. He definitely liked Gai much better than Kakashi, and he sometimes wished he could have graduated with Lee instead to receive some actual training. That's enough, Gai. Just let me look over your student. That greatest medical ninja in the elemental nations is now my Ka-chan. So far, she seemed Gainun about this adoption. Maybe I can give this a chance. Naruto thought with a genuine smile. But was snapped from his stupor when he heard a long and unbroken beeping noise coming from the machine that is hooked up to Yugao. The clone rushed out of the room. Ka-chan. The Naruto clone shouted in Lee's room. All three turned to the orange-wearing ninja. What is it, Sochi-kun? The Tsunade clone asked casually while shocking the green-wearing ninjas. Tsunade-sama adopted Naruto-kun. Lee and Gai thought in shock. Metaphorically, their jaws dropped through the floor and into the earth. A patient is dying. You have to help her. The Naruto clone shouted in desperation. The Tsunade clone got a hard look on her eyes and put down Lee's diagnostic report. I'm sorry, Lee, but I promise I'll come back for you later. The Tsunade clone promised and quickly left with the Naruto clone, leaving behind two absolutely stunned ninjas. Tsunade-sama. Gai said in awe, but Lee finished for him. Adopted Naruto-kun. Gai suddenly got a huge grin on his face. Lee-kun. Once Tsunade-sama heals you, I shall adopt you. Gai shouted. Tremors ran through Lee's body before he burst into tears. Gee, Gai-sensei. Lee cried, but Gai put a hand on his shoulder. It's 2-chan to you now. Gai reminded, getting his soon-to-be new son into tears. TT 2-chan. Lee cried and hugged his newfound father. Both of them are too happy to notice two figures watching them. Lee Baka gets a father. And we are left with nothing. Sakura and Sasuke thought in anger and envy. Back in Yugao's room, the machine continued to beep loudly as Yugao remained still on the bed. The clones of Naruto and Tsunade rushed inside, and the Tsunade clone already started weaving hand seals. Her hands glowed green and placed it on Yugao's chest. Damn. I remember this case. Tsunade knew. Naruto. Bring me Shizune at once. Go as fast as you can. The Tsunade clone commanded. The orange-wearing clone nodded. In an orange blur, the Naruto clone left the room, shocking the Tsunade clone of his speed. How was Naruto that quick? He was never that fast when he fought Kabuto, and that was just a little over a week ago. No one can be that quick in such a short time. The Tsunade clone realized, but remembered the beeping that is going on. Don't you dare die on me. The Tsunade clone shouted and jump-started Yugao's heart by giving it a bit of a jolt. It's a blessing that I know a few Raiden techniques. The Tsunade clone thought and applied a sustaining technique, simply to prevent Yugao from dying. N Naruto K-kun. The original Naruto turned around to see a beautiful girl with dark blue hair and fair skin. Her eyes are as pale as the moon and has her headband wrapped around her neck. Hinata wore a navy blue pants and a cream-colored hooded jacket with the fire symbol on the upper parts of the sleeves. Hey Hinata, what's up? Naruto asked. Naruto saw a small blush forming on her face. Naruto couldn't help but smile that he had that effect on her. She's so pretty like that. Naruto thought and smiled. Hinata mumbled something, but Naruto couldn't hear it. What was that? Naruto asked and stepped forward. Hinata wanted to collapse right then and there, but her feeble will somehow managed to keep her upright. Whya are you going into the Senju compound and Naruto-kun? Hinata asked while stuttering along the way. Naruto scratched the back of his head sheepishly and grinned happily. Well, ya see Hinata, I recently got adopted and I live here now, I think. Naruto admitted. Naruto might as well reveal he got adopted by his Hokage. He figured he won't be able to hide something of that magnitude, so he might as well embrace the truth in this case. Hinata was greatly shocked by the news of her crush getting adopted. Who would adopt Naruto-kun after 13 years? And why is he going to the Senju compound? The only Senju who could possibly adopt him is. Mental gasp. Tsunade-sama adopted Naruto-kun. Hinata realized. Tsunade-sama adopted you? Hinata asked, but it sounded more like a statement. Naruto grinned wider and nodded. Yep, I am now Naruto Senju. Would you like to come inside with me? Naruto offered. Instantaneously, an atomic blush made its way to Hinata's face. Naruto-kun offered me to join him. Naruto-kun offered me to join him. EKK. Hinata internally wailed. Naruto noticed her blush and stepped forward to put a palm on her forehead. You okay Hinata? You look kinda red, do you need to go inside? He asked. The moment his hand touched her forehead, Hinata felt a great urge to faint and pass out. Naruto loved seeing Hinata blush like that whenever he acted oblivious. Come on in. Let's get you inside. Naruto told and walked Hinata across the Senju compound. So far, Hinata didn't pass out, which is a new record for her. As they passed through a dozen of abandoned Senju homes, Naruto couldn't help but see Hinata struggle to look him in the eyes. A frown came to his face. He liked Hinata, but he couldn't help but feel upset that Hinata can't meet his eyes with her own. Eventually, the new Senju and Hyuga made their way to a two-story building. The Senju home has a brown tiled roof along with brown wooden walls. There are a few windows scattered across the walls for those who wants to see things from the inside to out, or vice versa. The overall color across the entire home is completely dark brown. Naruto and Hinata entered the two-story home and saw the brown wooden floor, ceiling, and walls around them. The furniture is the bare necessities that are capable of being moved around. It seems Tsunade hasn't moved in yet. Look at all the dust around here. The Senju compound is pretty much abandoned. I'll fix that right up. Naruto thought and formed a hand seal. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naruto called out and the Senju home is surrounded by Naruto clones. Clean up this place guys. Naruto ordered. The clones went to work, and amongst the chaos of cleaning up the house, Naruto passed the scroll on his back to a clone without letting Hinata see him. Bury this thing. Summon Kage Bunshins if you need help and be quick. We can't let this scroll be stolen from us or there'll be trouble. Naruto whispered quietly. Meanwhile, Hinata was amazed by the amount of Kage Bunshins Naruto made. She saw how many he made before, but she was greatly intrigued by their usage. These clones can pretty much do everything the real deal can. I wonder if these C clones could have other uses. Hinata though while blushing madly. She felt a hand on her shoulder and saw a clone of her crush offering her tea. "Oh tea, thank you Naruto-kun." Hinata thanked and blushed even more after she claimed the tea. The clone grinned even more and went to help the other clones to clean up the house. After the clone of Naruto taken the scroll away from Hinata, the clone walked and formed a few more cage buncheons. "Alright gang, we need to find an appropriate spot for this scroll. We'll retrieve it later when everything's calmed down." The few clones scattered and eventually the clone received the memories of a clone where a spot is good. The clone leapt on a few rooftops to see a forest edge. The forest edge had a nice line of forest and the clone entered the forest. "So, Hinata, how's your wound from Neji?" Naruto asked a bit worriedly as his clones finished cleaning the house. Hinata still had a blushing face, but answered truthfully to not seem boring in front of her crush. It's fine, Naruto-kun. There was a nice Anbu who healed me when the leaf was invaded." Hinata answered. "Oh, do you know this Anbu?" Naruto asked curiously with a warm smile. Hinata shook and hung her head. Naruto saw a small frown on her face. Naruto raised her chin to look into her eyes. "It's fine Hinata, Anbu are usually very mysterious people." Naruto reminded and smiled softly. "Hey, how about you try to be more confident in yourself? I was very, and I mean very proud of you when you stood up to Neji even though you lost. I was so proud of you that day." Naruto admitted and adopted a thoughtful expression. Hearing her crush saying these sudden words caused her to feel glee. "Naruto-kun's proud of me. Naruto-kun's proud of me." Hinata thought, blushed, and smiled weirdly all at the same time. How about we go?" He felt an influx of memories. "Oh, crap. That could be big trouble," Naruto thought, but kept his composure and finished what he was saying. "Get some ramen?" Naruto asked, and as expected Hinata grew a new shade of blush. That sounds like a date," Hinata told, getting Naruto to recoil and give a small chuckle. "Ha ha ha, I guess it is," Naruto confessed sheepishly. But Naruto-kun, what about Sakura-san?" Hinata asked. She would love the chance to nab Naruto without Sakura's consent, but she was worried about his crush on her. But she ended up regretting to remind him about Sakura when she saw Naruto have a frown on his face. Naruto-kun?" Hinata asked worriedly, but suddenly Naruto grew cheery again. "Well, Sakura-chan keeps rejecting me all the time and she always beats on me when I even talk to her. I mean, it kinda gets tiring to ask Sakura-chan out only to get beaten in. Lately, I've been thinking about someone else," Naruto confessed. Shock turned up on Hinata's face as she heard the words leave his mouth. He's been thinking about someone else. Could it be Ino-san, or the Tenten girl, or that Ayame person? Hinata wondered with a frown. Naruto grinned and took Hinata's hands gently. "Will you get some ramen with me?" Naruto asked gently, getting the blush he always liked. "In Naruto-kun's thinking about me." "Me?" Hinata mentally screamed. She didn't trust her voice, so she went with a nod. The clone ready to Rasengan and carved a hole in the ground. After digging a large enough hole for the scroll with all the techniques in the village to fit in, the clone placed the large scroll in the hole. "This'll keep it safe for now," the clone thought and buried the scroll deep into the ground. Afterwards, the clone covered the tracks however it had to be done. "Sweeten, Teppadama." The clone whispered and fired a very small amount of water from his mouth to help conceal the spot where the clone dug up. Afterwards, the clone flipped through hand seals. "Futon, Datapa." The clone whispered and blew a wind on the spot, giving it a more natural look. The clone nodded at its work and was about to dispel, only to hear a voice call out to him. "What are you doing here, Naruto-kun?" the voice asked. The Naruto clone easily recognized the voice and sheepishly scratched the back of its head. Hey, sorry Kakashi-sensei, but I'm in the middle of some training," the clone admitted sheepishly. "In the middle of the Senju compound. Only a Senju has any right to enter here?" Kakashi asked somewhat dangerously. The clone took notice of the tone, but didn't bother with it. The clone had every right to be here. "Well, I am technically a Senju now. Ask Ka-chan about it," the clone replied with a grin. His answer caught Kakashi's full attention and his mind already connected the dots. Tsunade is the last known Senju after all. Tsunade-sama adopted Naruto. Since when? Kakashi wondered. Ka-chan adopted me today in the morning. The clone smiled and found the ground interesting. I'm not alone anymore. The clone whispered and Kakashi caught it. Good for you Naruto-kun. Kakashi said and ruffled the clone's hair much to the clone's protests. The baka. Doesn't even know a good actor when he's feeling so happy for me. So what are you doing here, exactly? I saw you use elemental ninjutsu and I'm quite surprised. Kakashi admitted while narrowing his lone eye, getting the clone to sweat. Oh crap, did he see me bury the scroll? The clone mentally freaked, but kept its pose. Yeah Kakashi-sensei, you want to help me with my Suiten training? The clone of Naruto asked eagerly. Kakashi nodded and the clone turned to a tree and flipped through hand seals. Suiten, Teppadama. The clone roared and fired 3 rounds of Kakashi's torso-sized water bullets. The 3 bullets made contact with the tree, blowing it up and causing it to fall down on the spot where the scroll was buried. Impressive, Kakashi said in slight awe. That was better than Sasuke's fireball. Sasuke's fireball is only a single shot while that jutsu has 3. If these two fought, then Naruto would win, Kakashi admitted while the clone grinned. Too bad that wasn't my full power. Kakashi would have suspected something if I accidentally dispelled. The clone thought and turned to Kakashi. So, Kakashi-sensei. I got Futon in Suiten, and I noticed Sasuke has Kaden and Raiden. That means I can beat him in elemental ninjutsu. The clone said and its grin grew larger. How did Naruto know that? Kakashi wondered and looked at the clone. I didn't teach him elemental ninjutsu. How did he learn that? It seems you really gotten a good grasp on Suiten ninjutsu Naruto-kun. You don't need my help. Kakashi assured. The clone's eyebrow twitched. Lazy baka. Can't even find time to help me. If he took the time to notice, I haven't even perfected most of my Suiten jutsus. The clone noted a bit angrily. So what about you? What are you doing in the Senju compound? Naruto asked. I saw the gates of the Senju compound open. I thought we had some theft or something and I thought it was my duty to stop them from what they were doing. Kakashi answered. The answer sounded logical to the clone. Well, boss did forget to close the gates. The clone sheepishly remembered. How could boss be so careless? Well, it's getting kinda late Kakashi-sensei. So I'll be seeing ya. The clone ran off. Kakashi glanced at the downed tree, not before leaving by Shunshin. Meanwhile, the clone was waiting for Kakashi to leave from behind a tree. When the clone was sure Kakashi was gone, the clone dispelled, but the clone was unaware of another clone that was up on a tree branch. So, that was a clone this whole time. The Kakashi clone thought. And what was that clone doing out here? Training. It sounds likely. The memory feedback could be used training, but I didn't teach him any of that. Who taught him that? Could he have known this whole time? Or could it be IT? The Kakashi clone thought and dispelled. A Naruto clone was sprinting towards Tsunade's office in a hurry after a clone of Tsunade told him to get Shizune. The clone burst through the Hokage's door in a hurry and screamed. Nei-chan, Ka-chan, a patient is dying and you have to help her. The clone shouted. After taking a good look around the room, the clone noticed several Tsunade clones are working on a few piles of a minion of Yami's white sheets of evil. Naruto-kun, we're all clones. A Tsunade clone told, getting the Naruto clone to sweat drop. I was talking to a group of Senju Bunshins. Great, the clone thought. At least she took my Kage Bunshin tip seriously. Where's the real Nei-chan? The clone asked hurriedly. A Tsunade clone nodded and screamed very loudly. Shizune. At once, Shizune came bursting through the door with several pieces of paper, and a scroll in her hand. Yes, Tsunade-sama. Shizune asked. A patient needs you, take Naruto-kun to the hospital with you. One of the Tsunade clones ordered. Shizune did what she was told and took the Naruto clone to the hospital via Shunshin after she placed the pieces of papers she came with on Tsunade's desk. Back in Yugao's hospital room, Shizune and a clone of Naruto appeared via Shunshin no Jutsu. Good, Shizune, you're here. This person lost the will to live. The Tsunade clone, who was meant to heal Lee, explained roughly, getting shocked looks from Naruto and Shizune. Naruto gave a look of guilt, but Shizune turned serious and focused on their patient. Lost the will to live. Can a person really die like that? The clone of Naruto wondered. K-Ka-chan, is it really possible for a person to die by having no will to live? The blonde clone asked worriedly. It sounds rather unbelievable. Just because someone doesn't want to live anymore, makes it seem unbelievable. Yeah, Naruto-kun, now please go into the hallway. We're going to need some space to save this person. The Hokage's clone commanded. Naruto rushed out of the room, leaving Tsunade and Shizune to heal Yugao. Shizune, the medicine, Tsunade stated. Shizune lifted the bottom part of her black kimono which showed a case of 4 syringes strapped to her thigh. She took one out and injected one into Yugao's neck. The effect was fairly quick when Yugao's pulse began to flare again. Once her pulse stabilized, Shizune helped the Tsunade clone in healing Yugao. The healing session was rough, but thanks to the 2 medical senjus, Yugao's going to make it. Shizune, why did Naru-chan have a guilty look on his face? The clone of Tsunade asked while supplying chakra to Yugao's heart. I don't know Tsunade-sama, but he really looked guilty. Shizune replied while examining the heart monitor, which beeped, letting both medics know Yugao's alive. We'll take about this later, but for now we'll have to take care of this problem, then we'll talk to Minato and Kushina later. The clone of Tsunade said and turned to Yugao. Well, she's okay. I read on her and she lost a lover during the 1 month the Genins have for the Chunin exams finals. That is probably the cause of her losing the will to live. Tsunade explained, as a solemn look appeared on Shizune's face. Tsunade-sama. Shizune asked for her sensei's clone attention, but instead she got an annoyed look. Shizune, I am your mother now, or rather a clone of her, but I would like you to call me Ka-chan, like your Otuto does. Tsunade reprimanded lightly. Smiling softly, Shizune chuckled lightly and gazed softly on her newfound mother. Shizune was oddly comfortable with her sensei's clone, but the memory trick allowed her to be herself around her sensei's clone and treat them like her mother, but secretly, Shizune was slightly edgy around her sensei's clone. Well, others told me that Naruto-kun often comes to the hospital. Perhaps, this woman is who Naruto was seeing. Shizune suspected. The Tsunade clone thought about and cupped her chin. Naruto-kun was the one who told me about this patient, maybe we're onto something. I think we should just ask Naruto-kun why he was here. Tsunade said. Yeah, maybe later. Shizune said and stayed to watch Yugao. Is it true? A voice abruptly called from the hallway. Both senjus looked at who talked and saw a familiar pink-haired figure. What's true? Sakura right? Tsunade asked and raised an eyebrow curiously. Is it true that you adopted Naruto Baka? Sakura demanded with Sasuke revealing himself from behind Sakura. Being demanded from caused the Tsunade clone to glare at Sakura. Why yes, it's true. Naruto Uzumaki is now Naruto Senju, and my Sochi. Tsunade informed and glared at the 2 members of Team 7. But to her growing confusion Sakura grew angry and stomped away. Sasuke followed behind her, not before giving a glare to his Hokage. Ka-chan? Shizune asked worried. She knew about Sakura's condition and worried that Tsunade might be worried about that. Call it a cycle of worrywarts. It's fine Shizune. Naruto can take care of himself and if he needs us, we'll be there for him. Tsunade told. Now that Yugao-san's fine, how about you go back to the office? Tsunade said. After being told to leave the room, Naruto left for the rooftops for some air. He felt an extreme amount of guilt of putting Yugao in that hospital bed and now there was a possibility that she could have died. Oh Kami-sama save Yugao-san. I just want the chance to apologize to her and she nearly died because of me. And now look at her, she nearly died by losing her will to go on. Naruto thought sadly as he watched the towels, that are hanging, dry. My mask. It nearly killed a person. I can't let this go on. What if I didn't let my mask slip when I fought Kabuto? Keika-chan and Nei-chan would have died that day and I wouldn't have called them my family, then. Naruto wanted to cry, but he refused to let anyone see him break. He didn't want to let anyone know the demon brat broke. It would only bring in more pain. Sure the villagers grew a bit nicer, but there was always a select few who could do worse when he's vulnerable. No more playing the fool. I gotta remove this thing before someone else gets killed. It might be sooner than I hoped for, but it's better than letting another person lose their life because I didn't do anything. Naruto stood up from sitting on the roof. He looked to the sky with unyielding determination. Look out, world. 'Cause Naruto Uzum, no. Naruto Senju is here. Naruto thought with rarely gained pride and grin. Naruto Baka. A screech filled the sky. Naruto slowly turned and grinned wildly at the voice. His eyes laid on his two teammates and Naruto couldn't help but grin at them. The Sakura's angry. She probably wants to punch me right about now. Well, no more. I won't tolerate any more beatings. Naruto thought as he turned to Sasuke. He might treat Sakura as a thing in his mind, but he would never say it out loud. It would bring lots of unwanted attention to him. He's angry too. Maybe I can rough him up a bit and teach him a few things, one being humility. Naruto thought and walked over to them. When he was in punching range, Sakura leaked out killer intent. Now Naruto wasn't fazed by the tiny amount. Sakura was never a powerful kunoichi like his adoptive mother. He felt Tsunade's killer intent before and it was massive compared to Sakura, and it wasn't even directed at him. Then, as expected, Sakura threw a punch. And as expected, Naruto caught her fist with ease, shocking both his teammates. What? Sakura with wide eyes was greatly shocked that Naruto didn't take the punch. Sasuke was equally shocked as his female teammate. He wasn't expecting Naruto to catch her fist with ease. What? I didn't even see Naruto move his fist to intercept Sakura's. Sasuke seethed and glared at Naruto. Let go of my hand, Naruto Baka. Sakura shouted and threw her other fist at Naruto. To her growing anger, slight fear, and rage, Naruto caught her other fist in his other hand. I am done with you, Sakura. I am done with being your stress reliever. All those demeaning words you said to me is history and I had enough of your distaste for me. If you hate me so bad, then say it. End this stupid farce and scream it to the world. Naruto shouted and glared at the two. Shock. Shock was in Sakura's mind right then and there. She never expected her punching bag to punch back with words of rebellion. She always expected Naruto would take her anger and take it like he always have. But there was one thing she didn't expect. Her punching bag fight back, and the lack of the chan suffix. She was shocked that Naruto didn't proclaim his blatant love for her. And it made her feel unwanted. She didn't know how to respond to that. To her growing fear, she felt killer intent leaking from her punching bag. Her breathing quickened and her heart pumped faster. She can feel the adrenaline coursing through her body as Naruto's eyes bore deep into her own. Well, do you hate me? Naruto asked, or rather demanded. Sakura remembered the reason why she was here. Yes, I hate you, I loathe you, I want to hurt you, I want to beat the living crap out of you. Let me go. Sakura shouted and glared at Naruto. But to her growing feeling of impending doom, Naruto's killer intent rose. It was so large of a killing intent that even Sasuke took a step back away from the pair as Naruto and Sakura glared at each other. What is this? This feels so much like Zabuza. And Orochimaru. Sasuke realized with wide eyes. Subconsciously, he gulped in a bit of fear. What are you? Suddenly the killer intent vanished and Naruto returned to his cheery mood. Good, 'cause I hate you too, Sakura. Naruto casually confessed and released Sakura's fist. Sakura rubbed her wrists, glared at Naruto, and took a few steps back. Seeing Sakura backing off, Naruto turned to Sasuke. So why are you here? Naruto asked and glared at Sasuke. Sasuke took a step forward and glared at Naruto. How long? Sasuke growled and Naruto pretended not to hear. What? Naruto asked with a smirk. How long? How long? Sasuke looked down. Naruto couldn't see his eyes, his hair blocked his view as Sasuke had a downcast look. How long what? Naruto asked again while hiding a smirk. How long have you held back? Sasuke screamed and gave a death glare at the Senju. Sakura stood there, shocked of what Sasuke asked. All this time I was a greater than you and you just come up and sent that killer intent. How long have you held back on everyone? Sasuke demanded. Naruto grinned and smirked. He paused dramatically, much to Sasuke and Sakura's anger. Since 3 years and 8 months ago. His answer shocked both his teammates, and that shock quickly grew to anger. So all this time you were the best of all of us. Better than that green-wearing freak, better than that Hyuga, better than Haku, better than Zabuza, better than Me. Sasuke demanded. Yep. Naruto answered with a grin. He wouldn't say he's better than Zabuza or Haku, the demon of the mist can equal Kakashi, and Haku's demonic ice mirrors are hard to beat, but Sasuke didn't need to hear that. He then felt Sasuke's killer intent. Like with Sakura, Naruto was unfazed by that and didn't bother to fight back in a war of killer intents. I'll show you and everyone not to make a fool out of me. I'll kill you. Sasuke shouted and threw a fast and reckless punch at Naruto's head, hoping it would connect. Naruto ducked and delivered a 3-hit combo on Sasuke's torso. Each one caused Sasuke to take a step back and the last slammed him to the ground. That is enough. I had it with your arrogance. And now you tried to pick a fight with me. I'll be the better man and shinobi and let you go with a fair warning. Naruto Senju will not tolerate any more crap from anyone. Naruto proclaimed and glared at both his teammates. When he felt he glared enough, he walked away. Sasuke-kun. Sakura cried and looked over Sasuke. When she saw he was okay, Sakura glared at Naruto. Naruto baka. You stupid demon. You stupid monster. How could you do this to Sasuke-ku? She was suddenly interrupted by a huge blast of kill intent. And her entire body turned cold when Sakura saw a menacing death glare from Naruto. I had enough of this team. Sakura, you are a pathetic kunoichi that should have just quit on the first day. I tried to be a team player and tried to help you in a subtle way, but every single time you reject any offer of aid I gave. I may hate you so badly, but I tried to help you because it was the team-like thing to do, but you reject me and assume that I tried to ask you out on a date. Naruto snapped. And now you have the gall to call me a freak. A demon. A monster. What about you and most of the girls in this village? All of you continuously follow Sasuke like he's some kind of kami. Naruto shouted and glared at Sasuke. And you, Sasuke-tem. I had enough of your whiny behavior. Look around you. You have so many people beckoning themselves to your feet and you blow away all of them for your pitiful desire for revenge. I remember your little visit a week ago and it looks like you can't even touch Itachi. Sasuke grew furious by the mentioning of his name. We're just a couple of genins. There is absolutely no way for any of yous can take on a cage-level ninja like Itachi in a matter of months. You are a complete fool for using an assassination jutsu in a frontal assault, and on a superior ninja to boot. There was no chance for either of us to win against a great ninja like Itachi. Naruto coldly scolded. As a member of Team 7, Team Kakashi, I quit. Naruto quitted and walked away, but he didn't get far when Sasuke tried to punch him in the head. Naruto ducked under the blow. He knew that punch was coming when he felt the killer intent and expected a blind-sided attack. Naruto turned around and threw a punch of his own, which was caught in Sasuke's fist. Sasuke returned another punch of his own, and like before, Naruto caught his fist. Both disengaged and Sasuke threw a roundhouse kick at Naruto, but Naruto caught the kick with ease and attempted to throw him to the fence. To his disinterest, Sasuke's hands touched the ground for stability and kicked Naruto with his other leg. The shot pushed Naruto off of him for space. The blow wasn't strong enough to dispel the clone. Is that all you got? A little handiwork and you're all good to go. Naruto taunted and felt Sasuke's growing killer intent rise. Sasuke charged with reckless abandon and engaged Naruto in a flurry of taijutsu. To Sasuke's surprise, Naruto blocked every strike effectively and even managed to push Sasuke to the defensive. How? Sasuke blocked a punch. Are you? Sasuke took a brutal punch to the stomach, effectively knocking the wind out of him, gasped for breath. Better at Sasuke ducked a kick, taijutsu than me. Sasuke demanded. I held back. Naruto said calmly and gripped on Sasuke's hand and used his might to swing him towards a batch of towels. Sasuke managed to grab his footing off of a towel rack and leapt high onto the water tower. Naruto, tell me why you held back after all these years. Sasuke demanded. Naruto actually thought about it by cupping his chin. 'Cause I felt like it. Naruto taunted. Sasuke growled and glared at the adopted Senju. That can't be the only reason, Dobi. Tell me or die. Sasuke threatened. My reasons are for me to know and for you to never find out. Naruto grinned. Then die. Sasuke screamed and leapt off the water tower. He flipped through hand seals in clear daylight, which Naruto caught the last one. A tiger seal. He's going to use a Kaden jutsu. The Naruto clone thought and flipped through a single hand seal of his own. Kaden. Gokaku no Jutsu. Sasuke roared. The real Naruto, who was oblivious to everything, was eating some of Ichiraku's ramen and having a good time with Hinata. So far, Naruto liked what he heard from a potential lover and enjoyed his time with Hinata. Now their time together wasn't perfect, thanks to a pair of Ichirakus, but nevertheless, Naruto slowly grew a crush on the Hyuga girl. Naruto knew his chances with Hinata could go either way, and he feared Hinata would flee from him if she knew the truth. If he knew the truth. Hinata knew of Naruto's burden long ago. It was hard to ignore the villagers' whispers of the Kyuubi brat and the demon spawn, and not realize they were talking about Naruto through their hateful glares. Hinata wanted to do something about Naruto's pain, but her confidence issues always came up. It was a curse she always had to burden, and she knew Naruto needed help, but couldn't get over herself. She felt weak. That is till Naruto did a complete 180 and blatantly asked her out. She grew stronger. So here we are, Hinata and Naruto on a small date. Now Naruto's time was short and he had an hour or two with Hinata before he had to go to his adoptive mother for some reason. Sorry, Hinata-chan, but I gotta go to Ka-chan's office for something. I'll be seeing you, Naruto said, getting the blush he always liked from the girl who cared for him. It's fine and Naruto-kun. Hinata said and put her head down. Her time with Naruto was somewhat short in both their opinions, but hey, being a ninja means making sacrifices. It was something they had to deal with all the time. Hey, I'll be back. I promise. Naruto promised. A hopeful look graced Hinata's face as Naruto left. Just when Naruto was out of her range, he felt the memories of a few slain clones from Sasuke. That could be bad. Naruto thought and contemplated by what happened in Yugao's hospital room. Oh Kami-sama. Yugao almost died because of me. Naruto thought in guilt and silently agreed with his clone. He shouldn't have let Hayate die during the invasion, and he wanted to remove his mask completely to protect the innocents. He never wanted to cause someone else the pain that Yugao felt. Especially one as beautiful as her. I promise I'll make it up to you, Yugao. That, I promise. Naruto thought and made his way to Tsunade's office. After dealing with the secretary who glared at him, Naruto entered the office to see several Tsunades and a single Shizune working on white sheets of hell, the bane of the Hokage, and hell's minion. Oh, Sochi-kun, you're here. The real Tsunade noticed and beckoned him forward. Okay, Sochi, I know I denied your request for a mission, but I have an urgent mission for you right here and now. Tsunade said with a stern voice. Naruto steeled himself for what's coming. It's a simple mission, just retrieve the listed ingredients. These ingredients will help in Lee's surgery. Naruto perked up to that. Helping Lee was always one of his priority, and helping him now is an excellent opportunity to do so. Lee was one of the main reasons why he ever gotten this far. If it wasn't for Lee, Naruto might have given up becoming a ninja, let alone Hokage. So Naruto felt he owed Lee at least a chance to become a ninja again, no matter how small the odds. Sure, Ka-chan, Naruto said and grinned. His adoptive mother gave him a slip of paper. Oh, and you're going to have a partner with this one. I believe you'll recognize him when you get to the western gates. Tsunade said cryptically. Who? Naruto asked. Ah, that's a secret, Sochi-kun. Tsunade teased. A warm feeling grew in Naruto's gut when she called him Sochi, and he found himself hugging Tsunade. Thanks, Ka-chan. Naruto thanked. On the crook of his shoulder, Tsunade can be seen, shedding a silent tear. I'll be going then, Naruto said and stopped. Oh, and Ka-chan. Can Shizune-chan come with me to the Senju compound? I kind of feel sore and I'll feel more comfortable if she helps me there, and, no, not here. Naruto said. Tsunade raised an eyebrow and smiled softly. Obviously enjoying that Naruto is comfortable in the Senju compound. Sure, Shizune. Will you help Naruto-kun with his soreness? It's probably the training. Shizune nodded and put a hand on Naruto's shoulder. Sochi-kun, you need to calm down on the training, or else you're going to wind up sore all the time. Tsunade scolded lightly, bring Naruto to a chuckle. No. Naruto pouted childishly, crossed his arms, and smirked as if he was imitating a child who doesn't want to do something. Ototo. Shizune scolded and playfully glared at her little brother. Sochi. Tsunade said dangerously while hiding a smirk of her own. A glaring contest unofficially started between senjus which ended with Naruto relenting. Fine. Naruto gave up and let Shizune take him. Unfortunately, that was the last time Naruto was going to be nice to Tsunade for a long time. Naruto made his way to the western gates without trouble, luckily. Hashirama made those gates. I'll beat him someday. Naruto thought and waited for his partner to arrive. 2 hours later, he grew impatient and his eyebrow was ticking furiously. Unexpectedly, a smoke cloud appeared and cleared. You're late. Naruto roared and pointed an accusing finger at the person. Ma, no need to worry Senju-sama. The person said with a mirthful chuckle. Don't call me that Kakashi-sensei. Naruto shouted. Very well, Naruto-sama. Kakashi smirked and pulled out his orange novel. Naruto's eyebrow began to twitch furiously, so furiously that it could fall off. Let's just get out of here. Naruto said and walked out of Konoha. In the Hokage's office, Tsunade was waiting patiently for 3 very special guests. After a few minutes, Shizune came back via Shunshin no Jutsu. Ah, Shizune, good. Is Naruto-kun okay? Tsunade asked worriedly. Shizune nodded and walked around towards Tsunade's back. Ototo had a sore shoulder and it was bugging him like crazy. I really think Ototo is training himself too hard. Shizune said. Yeah, I'll get him to calm down soon enough, but first we have to deal with Minato and Kushina. I can't believe those two. They abandoned their son to the hate of this village and they come back. Damn, I'm going to give them a piece of my mind. Tsunade said. Shizune tensed when she heard the Yondaime had a son. As expected, Minato, Kushina, and a blonde-haired girl with violet eyes filed inside the room. The Yondaime Hokage, Konoha's yellow flash, walked inside with a neutral face. The Yondaime wore a blue long-sleeve kimono with a long-sleeve mesh shirt underneath. On his legs is the same colored pants with a kunai holster on his right thigh and has 2 kunai pouches on both butt cheeks. Over everything he donned a thick blue with what it seems to be a symbol of Kiri along with common blue shinobi sandals. Minato held a neutral face as he stared into the eyes of the Godime Hokage. The wife of the Yondaime wore a sleeveless white kimono with a blue sash tied around her waist. Red hair flows from her scalp as she walked with elegance and beauty. Shizune visibly tensed by the woman's beauty. Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze also wore a pair of stockings that stopped at her thighs. Strapped to her back is her sword. According to the sword's sheath, the sword itself seemed pretty thin, yet sharp. Other than that, there is nothing that can be determined. And lastly, the female blonde in the room. Naruko Uzumaki Namikaze held an aura of confidence which brought along a smirk as she whipped her shoulder-length hair around. Naruko Namikaze bears a yellow sleeveless kimono and wears the same pair of stockings her mother wears and stops at the same place. However, her smirk is opposite to Kushina's present frown. Minato, Kushina. Tsunade said calmly and turned to the younger blonde. And you must be Naruko. Tsunade presumed and narrowed her eyes dangerously. Minato and Kushina were uneasy with the Godime's harsh tone and narrowed their own eyes back. However, Kushina added a frown to hers. Hello Tsunade, how are? Minato tried to greet, but Tsunade was instantly pissed. I am Hokage-sama to you. I am not in a good mood right about now and I want you 3 to sit the hell down. Tsunade snapped and thrusted her finger to the 3 chairs present in the room. Minato and his family of 3 reluctantly sat themselves down. A very deep silence emerged between the 5 as they stared at each other. The room felt cold as each person stared at another. Hey Kunoichi-san, I would like to talk to Hokage-sama alone if that's alright with you. Minato suddenly said to Shizune. No. Shizune will stay here. What we have here is between all of us. Tsunade said with a hard glare. Tsunade wasn't going to let Minato push her around even if he is the yellow flash. Besides, Shizune's family and family is something that should stick together. Minato gave a disappointed sigh. Very well. And silence reigned in the room again. Everyone was uncomfortable with each other since 2 of them are supposed to be dead and a third was never known to exist at all. I had enough of this silence. Tell me how you survived the Hake no Shiki Fuin, that jutsu was supposed to claim your life after you used it. So how the hell did you survive? Tsunade demanded. Unexpectedly, Kushina stood up. Tsunade. Please don't go there. Kushina practically pleaded. Tsunade gave a harsh glare at her before snapping. No. As Hokage, I demand to know how Minato survived that day. Tsunade demanded harshly. Reluctantly, Kushina sat back down before taking the floor as an interesting object. Oddly enough, Minato remained silent as his wife took a harsh response. I'll only say this. The Shinigami only slashes once. Minato cryptically said. All he got from the Godime was a confused look while Shizune narrowed her eyes. Naruto was ignoring the whole trade and found her fingernails interesting. I want details, now. Tsunade said in a tone that demands answers. No. Minato denied. Tsunade decided to let that slide and move on to a different and more important subject, one that concerns her new son. Besides, she could always interrogate Minato later. One can interrogate the Yondaime if she pulls her political rights properly. Fine, we'll just move on to a different subject. Tsunade coldly said. Kushina's frown deepened with the colder tone while her family gave looks of indifference. Why did you abandon your son? Tsunade asked bluntly. Simultaneously, Shizune stiffened, Minato's face turned sour, Naruto smirked before snorting out, while Kushina looked to be holding back the urge to cry. I had no choice, Minato started. Don't bullshit me like that, Minato. There is always choices. Give me a straight answer or else I'll get an amazing interrogator to have a field day in your mind. Tsunade snapped. I didn't have a choice. Minato snapped back and glared at Tsunade. Tsunade glared back with full force. Naruto looked like she didn't care and merely kept her attention on her fingernails throughout the talk. Once again, Kushina found the floor interesting, and Shizune paid even more attention to the conversation that she thought possible. Tell me everything. I am the Hokage, I have power over you, so I demand to know why you abandoned Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Tsunade shouted. A tight gasp escaped Shizune's lips as she held the urge to cry. Tsunade. Shizune cried and instantly Tsunade turned motherly. What's wrong, Shizune? Tsunade asked worriedly and moved to comfort her, but Shizune pushed her away angrily. Why didn't you tell me these bastards are my family? Shizune demanded and formed a hand seal. Kai. Shizune shouted and she transformed into a smoke cloud. The hanged figure turned out to be Naruto Senju Uzumaki Namikaze in all his glory. And he is beyond pissed. In that instant, Minato gave a pitied look on his son while Kushina held her urge to cry while Naruto was gazing on her brother as if she was analyzing him like a piece of meat. Sochi, Tsunade tried to say. She lost all her anger, her fury, and her determination towards the other three the moment she noticed Naruto was eavesdropping on this very conversation. In replacing the aforementioned emotions came fear and anguish, and it was all because of one lie. After Tsunade said, Sochi, Kushina was shocked that Tsunade adopted her son, and it appeared to them their relationship didn't last long. You lost that right to call me that when you lied to my face. Naruto snapped. Tsunade opened her mouth to say something, but instead she collapsed and lost all her strength in one instant. I'm sorry, alright. Please. Give me a chance to explain. I promise I'll make it up to you. Please. Just give me this one chance. Tsunade pleaded and gently tried to cup Naruto's hands into her own. But Naruto wasn't having that and shoved her hands away. The Uzumaki Namikaze family was struck into shock as they witnessed Tsunade's collapse in strength. I Kami damn it saved your drunken life from Orochimaru. What more do I have to do to know my Kami damned parents? All this time you could have stepped forward and gave me the truth, but you chose to hide this from me. Naruto shouted and glared at Tsunade. Tsunade hung her head down as she began to cry. She didn't want this, at least not like this. She wanted to tell Naruto of his parents on her own grounds, in her way, but thanks to his parents' arrival, that didn't happen. She knew Naruto would react like this and she wanted to tell him in a way so his anger would be directed at something else, but that didn't happen. Minato and his family wisely chose to let this come to pass. IIC couldn't end Naruto K-kun, Tsunade stuttered. She didn't want Naruto to be mad at her. He saved her life in more ways than one and she couldn't dare raise a fist nor her voice against him. It would only make her a deplorable woman after all he did for her. I deserve it. Don't you dare use that honorific on me. Naruto snapped and backhanded his Hokage. Minato and Kushina was overwhelmingly shocked while Naruto gave a look of interest. And Tsunade was the most shocked of them all. I'm so sorry. Tsunade tried to apologize. She wasn't even angry that Naruto backhanded her. To her, she genuinely believed she deserved it after lying to him after all he did for her. Please forgive me. No. Naruto coldly denied. Naruto. Apologize right now. Kushina demanded for once and stood up. She couldn't bear to see Naruto so angry. She was so shocked of what just blew up in everyone's faces. Sit back down now. Naruto demanded and pointed at Kushina. You have no idea what I've been through, Kushina. Naruto spat out the name as if it was acid. He knew of their identity through the fox that talked to him throughout the conversation. Naruto turned to Minato with as much hate as he could possibly muster after Kushina sat back down. Minato tem. Naruto growled. The Yondaime Hokage merely sighed out, as if he was disappointed with Naruto's actions. Hello, Sochi. Minato greeted, but was instantly blasted with killer intent that actually managed to get him to sweat. Don't call me that, Naruto shouted with much gained hate. To his annoyance and growing anger, the female blonde in the room began to laugh. Ahahaha. This is hilarious. So this is my Nissan. He looks so short. Naruto laughed and felt Naruto's killer intent directing itself at her. She merely shrugged it off. So this is my Imoto. If my eyes are looking right, it looks like she had a good life. You have no idea what sort of hell I've been through, non-Jinchuriki. Naruto spat. Tsunade, Minato, and Kushina was shocked while Naruto gave a look of indifference. How did you know Naruto isn't a Jinchuriki? Minato asked in some shock. Fool. The Kyuubi told me, and he's telling me that you are the Jinchuriki to the other half of its chakra. Naruto glared at Minato. A defeated look graced Kushina's face as she began to cry. Don't tell me. Don't tell me that you. Kushina whispered. What? Beaten, imprisoned, stabbed, poisoned, vandalized, stolen from, hell, even raped. Yeah, Kushina. I was orchestrated all my life because of this man. Naruto shouted and harshly pointed his finger at Minato. His response shocked everyone, including the seemingly insensitive Naruto. What? Why you? Why you were even raped? Tsunade sobbed in absolute horror. Half of that stuff never even shown up on his files. Oh Kami-sama. How much did I miss? Tsunade thought in shock as her entire body began to tremble. Kushina took it much harder and began to quietly weep. Even Naruto's eyes widened in shock while Minato gave a depressing frown. Yeah, Tsunade. Naruto spat out the name like with Kushina's name. Tsunade felt like she wanted to break down into tears. So, my so-called family. Naruto said with his words dripping with sarcasm along the harsh way. Kushina looked away, while Naruto slowly reverted back to her insensitive demeanor and Minato's frown deepened. Why weren't you there for me? Did you guys hate me because I was the Jinchuriki of the Kami-damned Kyuubi? Oh wait. Kushina was a Jinchuriki too, so it couldn't be that reason, could it? Naruto said with sarcasm dripping every now and then. The others were shocked that Naruto knew Kushina was a Jinchuriki too. Yeah, no one was there for me and throughout my whole life, I've been abandoned by everyone. So I ask you, why couldn't you take me with you? Naruto asked with a death glare. Konoha needed its Jinchuriki. Don't you dare give me that bullshit Minato tem. Konoha can burn for all I care. Everyone hates me because of what you did to me, and you don't even care. Naruto snapped violently. Tsunade was shocked by his proclamation. Naruto, why you said you loved Konoha? Tsunade started, but a very bitter laugh escaped from Naruto. Love. I love the place that beaten, imprisoned, stabbed, poisoned, vandalized, stolen, and raped me. That is some sick joke, Ba-chan. Naruto snapped while the last word was absolutely covered in sarcasm and venom. Tsunade cringed under the old nickname that she thought would have been long gone. How could you expect me to love a place that absolutely seethes my very existence? I absolutely hate Konoha. Naruto snapped. But what about your dream to become Hokage? Tsunade asked. I only wanted to become Hokage for one reason, and for one reason only. A Jinchuriki can never trust a cage. Naruto said. A gasp escaped from that and stared at her son's back. What do you mean, Sochi? What the hell did I say? Are you mental too? I told you all you lost the right to call me that. Naruto snapped at Kushina and began to pace around the room in anger. Kushina and Tsunade put their heads down. What I graciously mean is that a Jinchuriki can never trust a cage. A Jinchuriki can never trust a Hokage, Mizukage, Raikage, Tsuchikage, and a cage. Those cages would only use as Jinchurikis as a tool, as a weapon, as a punching bag when necessary. You damn cages believe you're doing the right thing when faced with a decision. A decision that'll force you to make a choice. Eventually, there will come a time when you damn cages will be forced to choose as Jinchurikis or the village. And to clear your damn consciousness, you're going to wind up choosing the village. I wanted to become Hokage simply to protect myself. Naruto snapped. What do you mean Naruto? Tsunade asked. Naruto laughed at her bitterly. Of course, you're only a cage for a few days. So you'll never understand. There will come a time when the village is in such a great danger that you'll be forced to use me to protect it or lose the village. Naruto shouted in Tsunade's face. I would never, Tsunade tried to say. Don't. Naruto stated coldly and held his urge to just kill everyone here while shaking his angry and accusing finger. You will end up choosing the village over me. I prayed to Kami that when you adopted me, I prayed to Kami that you wouldn't use me as a weapon for this Kami-damned village, but I knew I was trying to grasp for straws. I knew I was fooling myself. You wouldn't be able to take the guilt of failing this village. Even if I saved your drunken from Kabuto Tem, you still would have ended up sacrificing me for the sake of the many. Like that one saying goes, the lives of the many outweighs the lives of the few, or one. Naruto reminded coldly. By now, Tsunade hung her head down in shame, fully understanding why Naruto wanted to become Hokage. So why you? I only accepted the adoption purely because I hoped that being a family to you would make you think twice into not using me as some tool, but I was a complete fool. I knew you wouldn't be able to deal with failing this village when you lied to me about my parents, and they are alive this whole time. Naruto shouted and harshly thrusted his finger at the Uzumaki Namikaze family. Now what Naruto said wasn't completely the truth. In all honesty, Naruto would have enjoyed being adopted by Tsunade, but to see her lie to him in his face told him he would have some issues dealing with the adoption. I didn't know they were alive this whole time. Tsunade screamed to defend herself. Liar. Do not lie to me like you already have, Tsunade. Jiraiya has a spy network that reports directly to you. He would have told you these pieces of filth was still alive. Naruto shouted. Tsunade began to weep quietly. Within the back of her mind, she wondered how Naruto knew Jiraiya had a spy network. This wasn't supposed to end like this. Tsunade mourned. In my so-called family. Minato Namikaze. Konoha's yellow flash. The Yondaime Hokage is my father. Naruto stated with his voice absolutely dripping and pouring with sarcasm. To everyone's horror, Naruto began to menacingly laugh as if he was growing insane. I must have been one complete idiot. I almost look like this baka and yet I didn't see it. I'm a total baka. And here I thought he was my hero. And yet, this whole time he was my trash of a father. So father, Naruto said. Kushina and Tsunade began weeping because of his voice which was pouring a waterfall of sarcasm. Naruto was giving her brother a shocked look while Minato stayed frowning throughout his rant. Why throughout this whole time, you came back after 13 years? Am I just a deadbeat child that you never wanted? Oh wait, Konoha needed its Jinchuriki. Let me guess, Konoha was weakened at that time when Fuzzy Butt attacked it all those years ago, leaving it weakened to other forces. So you winded up sacrificing me for the sake of this village. He spat the last word out like it was some disease. 13 years later, Orochimaru winded up attacking Konoha, killing its Hokage in the process, and wrecking it in his way. So, let me guess, you came back when you noticed Konoha was in danger. So I ask you, why couldn't you come back earlier? Naruto asked. Kushina had enough and stood up with tears streaming from her face. We can't use chakra. Kushina screamed. Total silence. Absolute silence shook the room by storm. Naruto was stunned by his mother's answer. Minato kept his grim look while Tsunade stared at Kushina in shock. Naruto started picking at her toenails. Mind elaborating? Naruto asked while blinking his eyes a few times in shock. It was the Kyuubi attack all those years ago. There was a masked man that attacked us all those years ago that goes by the name of Madara Uchiha. Tsunade gasped. The man was supposed to be dead after all these years. Then that masked man pulled the Kyuubi out of me and the result left my chakra coils damaged beyond repair. I couldn't protect you the way I wanted to and all of our enemies would have came down on us if we were raising you. We couldn't protect you when we were weak. As for Minato, he's a completely different story. Kushina admitted with tears cascading from her face as she hung her head in shame. So why didn't you take me with you? Naruto asked in a way that would make an Anbu Root proud, and that's saying something. Root Anbu doesn't feel pride. The world knew I was pregnant, but didn't know I was pregnant with twins. We couldn't keep my pregnancy a secret because that is something that we cannot hide. So we admitted to having a single child and in secret whisking away the other. I had to make an impossible choice between my two children, so I chose the lesser evil and taken Naruto away to avoid letting unmentionable things from happening to her. Kushina admitted with a solemn face. Naruto adopted a very dark expression while contemplating on what to do next. Everyone understood what Kushina meant by lesser evil. The act is considered a kunoichi's worst fear. For once, the seemingly insensitive Naruto began to shed a single tear and a gasp escaped her lip. The blonde girl put her head down on what it seems to be shame. So you made your choice. Very well Kushina, you just picked a side. Naruto said, getting Kushina to whimper out. No I didn't. I want. You want. I want. Wanting, hoping, thinking, none of that matters when you left me. You chose to leave me behind, so you picked your side. Naruto snapped and turned to Minato with absolute hate in his eyes. So, Minato, why didn't you leave behind someone to take care of me? Surely you would have left behind something for me, surely you're not all that heartless. Naruto asked in the same tone he said before. My sensei, Jiraiya, and Kushina-chan's best friend, Makoto Uchiha, was supposed to take care of you. Respectively, they are your godparents. Minato admitted and he got blasted with killer intent. You are a total baka. Jiraiya cares more about staring at women's than taking care of a deadbeat child. Hell, I found out a woman was under a genjutsu before he did. What? Tsunade shrieked. Naruto ignored her. And he was a complete and total baka. Let alone he was a failure of a godfather. And don't you dare get me started on that Uchiha witch. Kushina gasped. Did you know Jiraiya came into my Kami-forsaken life just a couple months ago? Yeah, I only knew Jiraiya for a couple months, and I already can tell Jiraiya is a failure of a teacher. Did you know, in a span of 2 months, all he taught me was the Kuchio's no jutsu and the Rasengan. I feel absolutely sickened. I felt I could have received more training on my own. What? Tsunade shrieked again, this time louder. If she ever meets that baka of a Sanin. And don't get me started on that baka of a sensei called Kakashi. Naruto spat. Minato's frown deepened even more. Tsunade looked like she was going to have a field day punishing everyone who dared to harm Naruto. Naruto started to shake his head disappointedly as he tried to restrain his ungodly amount of anger, but he had absolutely no success. I had enough of Konoha. Tsunade, I quit. Naruto quitted and started walking out of the office. Wait. I deny your resignation. Tsunade shouted in desperation. Naruto frozen in place for a quick second before laughing like a madman. It's too late Ba-chan. I'm leaving Konoha. Naruto said. Now, Minato growled and flickered in front of Naruto. Naruto. You cannot leave. Konoha needs its Jinchuriki. He was cut off when Naruto slammed his fist into Minato's face. You are the world's worst father. Why aren't you angry at this village for all that it did to me? They even raped me. Why aren't you pissed off like any normal father? Naruto demanded. Minato was nearly unfazed by Naruto's outburst. The only evidence that he actually cared was the ever-descending look on Minato's lips. Your fate has been sealed the moment you became Konoha's Jinchuriki. I call bullshit on that. Kushina was a Jinchuriki too. So why isn't her fate sealed along with mine? Naruto demanded with the word, fate, being spat out. Kushina looked away again in shame while Minato simply gave a look of apathy. If Konoha needed its Jinchuriki, Then why doesn't Konoha protect its Jinchuriki the same way the Jinchuriki protects Konoha? Why is it so bad to have a symbiotic relationship in this world? Yeah, Tsunade, I'm sure in your medical expertise you know what that means. Naruto snapped and turned around to face a sobbing Tsunade. I only need time, Naruto. I'll change everything. Please, stay, Tsunade pleaded. By now, Minato recovered from the blow and gingerly slapped Naruto's shoulder while Naruto wasn't paying attention. A detail seal appeared on Naruto's shoulder. I'm sorry, Naruto. I truly am. I hoped that my dying wish would be followed by the villagers, but Naruto cut him off by coldly shrugging his father's grip. You people talk about hope, prayers, and sweetened words, but what I see is a group of people that can't even follow their own laws. In the words of the hypocrite Kakashi Hatake, those that don't follow the rules are scum, but those who abandon their friends and their family is worse than scum. And this room is filled with even worse than the worst of scum. Naruto coldly said and walked away, but suddenly stopped. Ya no. There are only 3 clans in this entire world that I truly envy. One was the Uzumaki. Kushina perked up to this despite the tears. I envy them because they never leave family behind. They would drop whatever they were doing just to save a single family member, no matter how old, or how defective they are, and Uzumaki would always come to save them no matter the odds. I honor that. I respect that. I envy that. I was totally jealous of that. Naruto shouted. And I once, though there were no Uzumakis left in the world. I thought I was the last. If there really were another, they would have came for me. In the end, I was right. I am the last Uzumaki. The Uzumaki clan shall live on through me, or die with me. Naruto said coldly and turned to Kushina, who collapsed on the ground. You have dishonored the Uzumaki clan. Naruto stated and glared at Kushina. A true Uzumaki wouldn't let a defect like yours stop them from rescuing me. Naruto said and turned to Tsunade with an icy cold glare. Another clan I genuinely respected was the Senju clan. Tsunade picked her head up. She was already expecting her turn at reprimanding. The Senju clan was a clan that fought for what they believed was right, and this started with a man called Hashirama Senju. In the beginning, the Senju clan was like any other clan, always killing children. He growled the last word. Pillaged the innocent, and always looked out for number 1. But that changed when Hashirama Senju revolutionized the entire shinobi world by creating the first shinobi village, Konohagakure. Naruto turned around to see the group in complete silence. But that isn't important. What was important was what Hashirama truly left behind. A code called the Will of Fire. The Sandaime Hokage, the old man, or rather the old fool, Naruto spat. Couldn't even beat a bunch of civilians. Doesn't he know there are 2 absolutes in this world? Doesn't he know power and love is what makes this world go round? I guess not. The old fool had absolutely no power to back him up, and I suffered so much because of his lack of action. If I recall, every shinobi village runs by military might, a dictatorship. If the old fool has no military might, then he should have stepped down. Naruto stated. But the old fool isn't important either. What's important is the Will of Fire. The Will of Fire was long ago corrupted by the very Hokages that stands in this room. The Will of Fire was meant to fight for the people, not the village. The village can be rebuilt, but lives cannot. Lives will be forever lost and forgotten in time, while the damned village will have a mark in history. But I will change that. Naruto shouted. I will revolutionize the world in my own image. A world that I truly respect, a world that I truly dream for. I will not let this pitiful family, he spat out the last word like a flame of the Amaterasu, stop me from reaching that world. Naruto shouted in the room. And finally the 3rd clan. The Uchiha clan. I respect them because of what they are. Naruto admitted. But they're traitors. Tsunade shouted. She knew of the Uchiha clan massacre after reading a report on them. And that is where you're wrong. The Uchiha clan was never traitors. The true traitors are all of this village. The Uchiha clan believed in power, and power is one of the absolutes in this world, but there was one Uchiha I admired most of all. This Uchiha knew both absolutes and I absolutely loved him. But I'm not going to tell you who that Uchiha is. You're gonna have to find out for yourself. Naruto chuckled with a feral grin and began to walk away. Naruto, come back. Tsunade and Kushina pleaded and followed him. Naruto never even gotten past the door before Kushina and Tsunade threw themselves at him in an attempt to stop him, but Naruto merely backhanded the both of them. I had enough. I'm leaving. Naruto walked away, but before he walked past the door, Minato unexpectedly shouted. Naruto! Stop him! Minato shouted. Instantly, Naruto stood on her feet and shot chakra chains from her body, but she didn't stop there. Naruto flipped through hand seals and what she called out shocked the two senjus. Mokuton, Shichiro no Jutsu, would release, 4-pillar prison technique. Naruto shouted. Around Naruto, a wooden prison shot upwards around him and imprisoned him in place. The chakra chain slipped through the wooden bars and held Naruto in place. What? This bitch knows the Mokuton. Tsunade screeched in a tone that would make Sakura proud and pointed an accusing finger at Naruto. So, Ba-chan, you'd rather stare at her than demand these people to free me. Then it looks like you made your choice too. Naruto shouted indignantly and shocked that Tsunade would stare at the girl restraining her instead of demanding these people to free him. And no. This was just one of those spurs of the moment kind of things Naruto. Tsunade tried to admit and realized her mistake. In all honesty, Tsunade thought she would never see the Mokuton in her lifetime again. She herself is a senju and never gained her Mokuton heritage. If the granddaughter of the Shodai never got it, she never expected the next generations or so wouldn't get it either. Liar. Naruto accused and turned to Minato. You are an absolute fool, Minato Tem. Your Hiraishin no Jutsu, this girl's Mokuton in chains won't work on me. Naruto bragged with a feral grin as Naruto held her twin tightly. Minato was shocked that Naruto knew about his Hiraishin no Jutsu and his power and seals. And why's that? Minato asked. I'm just a shadow clone. Naruto admitted with an award-winning huge grin. In one instant, Tsunade understood everything. Oh Kami-sama. I sent Naruto on a mission. And this whole time, Tsunade had no words to describe what a massive tragedy this meeting was. Not only has she lost the trust of someone who given her everything, but she also lost the trust that she actually wanted to keep. No. Naruto. Come back. Tsunade pleaded before the clone dispelled, but the clone turned to her with a sadistic grin. How about a test? Since you seem so sincere about wanting to change everything, don't send a single Anbu after me. This will be your first test to get my undivided attention, the clone said. Why? Tsunade said, defeated. I will have to return to Konoha someday to protect something important. There will be a day that Konoha is threatened by something so grand that I just have to return. How about this? I will give Konoha one freebie if you don't send any number of Anbu after me. I will still perform the mission I am on, but a clone of me will be the deliverer. From there, you will have my clones. Undivided attention, Tsunade. The clone bargained. The clone was talking about the scroll he buried in the Senju compound. As of right now, he cannot, in any way, retrieve the scroll in his current condition. There are simply too many variables that cannot be counted. One involves Tsunade's Anbu, and another is the fact that it's just a clone. As for the bargain itself, the clone realized that the boss is on a mission and will eventually have to return to complete the mission Tsunade gave him for Lee's sake. Once a clone of his boss returns to report the mission, the clone will give Tsunade the clone's full attention and a chance for redemption. Now this bargain gives Naruto a win-win situation. Not only does the clone messenger system works, but it will give Naruto a chance to plan things out without Tsunade's Anbu chasing after him. This will give Naruto a chance to steel his resolve and choose a side, but this will also give a chance to forgive Tsunade for all she did to him. Now if the scenario of Naruto forgives Tsunade comes to life, Naruto would still be Tsunade's son, thus protected, and giving a chance to grow properly without any of the sabotages he had to deal with. This in way, gives yet another win-win situation. If Naruto were to forgive Tsunade, not only would he be protected from the inside, from all of Konoha. He'll also be protected from the outside too. But then the issue comes of his so-called family. The clone thought the boss could simply tell them off and seclude himself in the Senju compound and train himself in all the clan's techniques. But, if Tsunade ever breaks her word and sends a squad of Anbu to retrieve him for the sake of grabbing him, or his Biju, Naruto will have a real chance at escaping in the outside world. Naruto would never be able to escape Konoha if everything came down upon him if he was in Konoha. But in the outside, where he is free, he'll have the best chance. And if he successfully escapes, he'll have a chance to do something meaningful. Now as to why the Naruto clone made this deal is simple. To test how Tsunade will react. If she sends out her Anbu, Naruto will know Tsunade has some ulterior motive, or so he thinks, and possibly wants the Kyuubi. He wouldn't put it past him if she wanted the Kyuubi through adoption. And if Tsunade follows through and doesn't send her Anbu, then she is more than willing to trust him. That was his key goal, trust. I got you pegged. Naruto shouted and vanished in a smoke cloud. The Naruto clone on the hospital rooftop grinned as Sasuke's fireball came towards him. The clone's left hand stuck its thumb to the sky and its right hand cupped the left in a single hand seal. Suiten, Sujinheki. The shadow clone of Naruto roared to the sky. In one instant, water formed between Naruto and Sasuke's fireball. A hissing sound of evaporation engulfed the hospital rooftop as 5 figures watched the jutsu exchange between Senju and Uchiha carefully. Damn, Sasuke thought in anger. I got no choice. He put his hand out in front of him before a familiar screeching of 1,000 birds came to life. Go Sasuke-kun. Sakura cheered. The Naruto clone merely smirked and flipped through hand seals. Chidori. Sasuke shouted and thrusted his arm forward. Futon. Daitapa. Naruto shouted back. Like with Orochimaru's Futon Daitapa, Sasuke was flung far back and into the fences, knocking him clean out. It was a simple battle between ranged jutsu versus close-range jutsu. The Naruto clone simply used range to beat Sasuke's close-range attack. Sasuke-kun. Sakura cried out in horror and rushed towards him. But something odd was happening as black marks began to crawl across Sasuke's skin, covering half his body. Sakura began to look at Sasuke in slight fear, but suddenly found her stance. Go Sasuke-kun. Yeah, Naruto Baka stands no chance when he's like this. Those sound ninjas didn't even had a chance in the forest of death. Sakura thought. I'll kill you. Sasuke roared. The Naruto clone merely smirked until a swarm of memories came to him. The clone's smirk grew. No, ya won't, cause I'm just a shadow clone. The clone's grin grew so very feral one moment before screaming to the world. I got you pegged. The amazing and wonderful clone dispelled in complete triumph. As the real Naruto leapt on trees out of Konoha at a leisurely pace for a ninja, he looked over his shoulder to see Kakashi hopping after him. Skipping on branches was what the copy ninja was doing while reading his perverted novel. Naruto didn't like the copy ninja for a lot of reason. Most of them was because of his blatant favoritism for the Rookie of the Year, but another reason was because he is the killer of Haku, an innocent, a true friend. Naruto passed by several dozen branches by branch hopping till he felt a swarm of memories calling to him. His normally happy mask turned into a deepening frown. To his surprise, he let a single tear drop from his eye. Kyuubi. We have a lot to talk about. Very well. And I expect no lies this time. Done. Naruto wondered why the Kyuubi simply lied to his face when he was going to meet his real parents. It didn't make sense. If the Kyuubi blatantly lied to him right before he was going to meet the truth, then why lie? What's your game, Kyuubi? Naruto wondered and leapt past more branches. Eventually, sensei and student sighted a seemingly peaceful village. Before they moved on, Naruto had some last thoughts. Tell me how you survived the Hake no Shiki Fuin. That jutsu was supposed to claim your life after you used it. Tsunade had said. I'll only say this. The Shinigami only slashes once. Minato had said. What did Minato Tem mean by that? Naruto wondered and looked to the sky. It was blue and clear and the clouds were few. Having enough sightseeing, Naruto faced his front. I have a lot to think about. He noted. Somewhere in the outskirts of Konoha, 20 Anbu look-alike people are inside an underground bunker. Each of these people wore a white mask that is shaped into various animals and all of them wore black cloaks. These people are rather confused as to what to do next, and there are people who are simply sitting on the floor, staring into nothing. The underground bunker itself is mostly colored in dark blue cement walls. There is a walkway along a deep abyss and an elevator that is pulled by a strong string that leads to the surface. This underground bunker is Danzo's base of operations. Route. As of now, there are 20 members inside. There are so many reasons as to why there are only 20 members. The incident with Aim's orphans was the biggest reason. Danzo practically lost every root Anbu he possessed that day. And it was even worse when Hiruzen ordered his root program faulty and disbanded. Danzo couldn't get more members into his program during this time, thus he was forced to siphon Konoha's potential shinobi for his root program. The process was extremely slow over the years as he was only able to get a half dozen a year or so since the order to tear down root. But as more dangerous missions came up, causalities were taken. Root practically survived off the skin of their teeth. Root's effectiveness over the elemental nations plummeted the moment Danzo lost nearly every single one of his men to Nagato, one of the Aim orphans and the Nadaima Mekage. And Root stayed down when Hiruzen disbanded his program. But not anymore. Torun-san, what do we do now? An orange-haired Yamanaka asked with absolutely no emotion in his voice. Our cursed seals are removed. That means Danzo-sama is dead. His words even after saying his master is dead holds no emotion whatsoever. Each of these root members holds no emotion as to what they do. Danzo believed emotion is a weakness, thus emotions are removed from his members. I am not sure Fu, however, Danzo-sama would want to protect Konoha from all forces. Another root member makes his debut via Shunshin. Fu-san, Danzo-sama gave me orders in the case of his death. We are to look into his room and find a scroll on his table. Let us go there now. The root member told. The three root members all vanished in a cloud of smoke. The three root members reappeared inside a room and circled towards a table. On said table is a scroll with a detailed plan of what to do upon Danzo's death. Gently, Fu took the scroll in his hands and unfurled a bit of it. He read. To all root forces. Afterwards, Fu began to read through Danzo's plan with his full and undivided attention. When he read through it, he gave the scroll to his two partners to read. Once all three read the scroll, they took special notice of the last order. Take control of the Kyuubi through any means necessary. Your last orders from Danzo Shimura, the leader of Root, in the event Danzo Shimura's death comes to pass. That's it for part 2 of this powerful alternate Naruto storyline. If you're enjoying Naruto's rise and the changing bonds around him, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Naruto What If fanfics. Comment below, who will stand closest to Naruto as his power keeps growing. See you in part 3.